stands as a beacon of truth. He is Abuki Cabal. You are listening to Abuki Cabal.
Welcome to the Abuki Cabal Show.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Abuki Cabal Show. And if you could take a moment to hit that like, share, and subscribe button, I would appreciate it. And also hit the notification button. Apparently some of my notifications haven't been going out. And if you would, just come and check in on me every now and then, see if I hadn't put out something new and interesting for you. And I'd appreciate it. So today's show, found interesting little article dealing with Dwyane Wade and his award that he and his wife, Gabrielle Union, received for their support of their trans son, daughter. Can't remember his name or her name. I think it's Zaya. Okay, so I think it's the first name is Zaya, and then it's a mix between his old name, middle name, and last name. So basically, this has been a point of contention for a long time for a lot of folks, because we went through the whole R. Kelly thing with the girl being underage and whatnot. A girl can't consent to to this sexual activity and whatnot. And here we have on the other side of this equation that a young lady or a young man can't consent to sex at that age, but the state is considering allowing, and there's a lot of feminists out here who are advocating for children of the same age and younger to be allowed to change their gender and to even go under treatment for gender reassignment. Puberty blockers and hormones and whatnot to basically start the body on its journey to changing its appearance to the opposite gender. Okay, so you can't have it both ways. You can't say that a child can consent to one thing but can't consent to another thing that is also associated with sexual activity. Also, you are having these children deal with complex topics before they're even in a pubescent stage. So you have these prepubescent children who are being allowed to undergo this journey of transitioning, and we see, them totally supporting this child go down this route, and even encouraging dating behavior between different sexes with them and whatnot. And it just, as a society, we're supposed to protect children even from themselves, from making bad decisions or whatnot. You can change your gender and choose to be gay and all these other things once you hit puberty, and once you're at a stage to where you have, sex becomes something that you're interested in. But before that time, no, and that goes into, these classes and things that these kids are being exposed to, which is causing them to have these different opinions about who they are before they're even allowed to even be children. I mean, these children should be worried about playing and watching Coco Melon or whatever the hell else that's out there now. Their cartoons should be free of sex and whatnot. But no, everything's being flooded with all of this sexuality and innuendo and all of this stuff. And, people say that, hey, we're probably blowing this out of proportion and we shouldn't be thinking about this. But, I'm going to have you take a look at a few things and see if these scenes don't creep you out. You have people who are out here changing their genders in order to gain access to children, but then you have this, the trans community tell you that, no, that's not the case. That's not happening. There are stories out here where people are taking advantage of these children and they are of that persuasion and they're gaining access to these kids and these kids are not being protected. Okay, well, we're venturing off into the weeds now, but, why the hell would you give people an award for, supporting a child in transitioning into another sex? And we're doing this, we're using the NAACP Awards to do this. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. So I don't have nothing to do with gay agendas or anything like that. This is supposed to be the advancement of colored people. You know what I mean? So how is that advancing colored people? And they start talking about, oh, this is protecting rights and whatnot. That's not what the name says. The name says advancement of colored people. Yes, they fought for civil rights and whatnot, but I question whether that is a civil right for you to be able to transition into another sex and force the general public to say that you are something that you physically are not. You may look like it, but you are not that. But we are forced to say these things, and if we don't, we are shamed and ostracized by, these Karens who run out and say all kinds of things about why are you spilling all this hate and vitriol at us and at these people just for being who they are. Well, that's fine. You can be whoever it is that you want to be as long as it doesn't affect me. See, but it's starting to affect me because I got to watch it in my Marvel movies. I got to watch it in my TV, in my science fiction, in my Star Trek, which it was in there originally, but it wasn't just overly, like it is now. You ain't gotta, nobody was really just really throwing it up in your face like it is now. It's like when people used to say, like when the Wayans brothers did their movies and they were going message, that's the way it is right now. It's like every few minutes, it's like gay shit, that's what we have to endure, and if it's not that, it's some type of feminist agenda that's being pushed that is just basically thrown out there to show that, hey, we're including people, even though the story doesn't call for it. We're going to include it in there. I was watching a vampire movie and all of a sudden the gay best friend is in the vampire movie. It just fucked up the whole movie for me. I hate to be like that, but that's just me. If I don't like pepper fucking ronies, I shouldn't have to fucking deal with pepper fucking ronies. You know what I'm saying? So that's all I'm saying. But people will make me have to go and eat pepperonis, so that's all I'm saying. I shouldn't have to do that. I shouldn't have to encounter something that I wouldn't encounter in my everyday goings on in order for these people to feel like they're included in society. I shouldn't have to endure ridicule because I'm a straight man and I support, men and women's activities and whatnot. No one should be forced to date someone who thinks they're a different sex. And if you don't, then you're somehow discriminating against these people, or you're afraid of them. You have some type of phobia, But that's where we are nowadays. So we're going to take a look at this. And then I'm going to look at a couple of these crazy little cuts that I got here for you guys to take a look at. All right, so here's that presentation there. And there it is. And this is on a publication that I, wouldn't under normal circumstances even frequent. But, since they covered it, I went ahead and did it. So let's take a look at what The Blaze has to say about, and it doesn't look good, about Dwyane Wade. It says, let's go.
Squires, the NAACP wants black men to follow Dwyane Wade up Brokeback Mountain. The trailer for a new political drama debuted last Saturday at the 54th NAACP Image Awards. The civil rights organization didn't give it a title. But as someone who understands the priorities of the modern left, I know exactly what it should be called: Brokeback Mountain. The black buck was an ugly racial stereotype used to describe defiant, physically imposing black men who defied white authorities. He was seen as quick-tempered, violent, and unintelligent. An internet search of the term buck-breaking will return blog posts and YouTube videos describing slave owners whipping and raping male slaves to weaken their rebellious nature. Share using FB, share using TW, share using PT, share using TL, share using M. Close sharing options. Show sharing options. Much like the Willie Lynch letter on controlling slaves. It is hard to detach the twisted logic of buck-breaking from the historical prevalence of the practice. That said, the entire purpose of buck-breaking is to make everyone watching the humiliation obey the master's plan. Breaking the will of the biggest, strongest, most influential man makes it easier to control the masses. This is why the film Brokeback Mountain was such a cultural flashpoint. The plot revolves around the relationship between two cowboys who meet as young men in Wyoming and have a complex sexual relationship that spans 2 decades. The film wouldn't have had nearly the impact if Heath Ledger and Jake Gyllenhaal had instead played 2 hairdressers who battled homophobia and AIDS in the 1980s. Their traditionally masculine work was a major part of the plot. Brokeback Mountain is the hill Dwyane Wade has been climbing as a LGBTQIA+ ally for the past few years. The NBA legend has talked openly about the journey he's been on to help his son Zaya, born Zion, achieve his dreams. Wade has been described as the type of father every LGBTQIA+ child needs. Zaya was granted a legal name and gender change by a Los Angeles County judge one day before the NAACP Image Awards aired. This is the reason Dwyane Wade and Gabrielle Wade received the NAACP President's Award Saturday night in front of a room full of black entertainers, journalists, and activists. The couple gave a 5-minute acceptance speech. Wade talked about his desire to support Zaya in his transition, and his wife spoke passionately about the threats black trans people face in America. It was the perfect speech for an event dedicated to showing the world exactly what kind of image the NAACP is promoting. The organization knows that men like Dwyane Wade, a retired NBA champion and surefire Hall of Famer, play a critical role in the left's identity politics transition. Wade's appearance on Ellen reached a mainstream audience, but his discussion with fellow professional athletes on I Am Athlete about how Zaya educated him on trans issues is what will change the hearts and minds of men who want to be less toxic LGBTQIA+ allies. This is exactly what the NAACP is hoping, largely because it sees the LGBT community as a growth market. The black population has hovered at 13% for half a century, partly due to black leaders who vocally support abortion, but 20% of young people in Generation Z, born between 1997 and 2004, identify as LGBT. The NAACP understands that rainbow is the new black, shifting the organization's focus to issues concerning sex, sexuality, and gender identity allows the group to turn a triple play, align with current Democratic Party priorities, continue to reach and promote the party's black female base, and paint itself as a champion for the oppressed and marginalized, no different from when it was winning desegregation cases in the 1950s. But this is a very different NAACP from the one that had the support of many black Christians in the 1960s. The NAACP of Brown versus Board of Education is dead. The organization that fought for human dignity by standing against the color line is now undermining the Imago Dei by working to destroy the sex binary. In fact, it is not even the same organization that the Baltimore Sun described as a secular organization with a heavy religious overlay in a 1996 story about its national convention and new president Kwasi Mfume. One section captured the religious nature of the event this way. Invocations and benedictions at NAACP events are not mere formalities. They often are mini events in themselves as preachers reach for heights of eloquence and inspiration. The annual convention includes a Saturday night gospel extravaganza, a Sunday morning memorial service, and late night revivals. Today's NAACP nominated Lil Nas X for Entertainer of the Year at the Image Awards in 2022. It is unlikely someone like Tony Dungy, a Christian with biblical views of sexuality and the human body, would be honored by the NAACP or any progressive pro-black institution. Instead, the NAACP and its peer organizations in the civil rights industry are leading the charge to bring backward black people, especially men, into the light regarding LGBT issues. Every country, culture, and community has to decide what type of beliefs and behaviors it promotes publicly and which ones must be practiced privately. This is a critically important distinction, because punishment, for example, social, criminal, economic, awaits those who move certain practices from the living room to Main Street without social approval. Every society has a closet, the only question is what, or who, has to go inside. In the NAACP's mind, men who think they are women should be free to tell our children that they too can change their sex, while people who believe in Genesis, or genetics, are forced to keep their hateful views to themselves. I have compassion for Zaya Wade and every other person, young and old, who feels their bodies are at war with their minds. Their distress shouldn't be ignored, but that doesn't mean we should lie to them about reality. No amount of surgery, medication, or linguistic gymnastics can change who they are. Instead of treating his mental health issues as a private matter, Dwyane Wade and Gabrielle Union are using their son to completely transform society, all with the full support of one of the oldest civil rights organizations in the nation. The NAACP's Image Awards were a clear signal of how the organization sees, and plans to lead, the black community in the coming years. The NAACP wants straight black men to follow Dwyane Wade up the mountain to complete the transition from LGBT antagonists to allies. Anyone who refuses should expect to be compared to Bull Connor or George Wallace. It is no surprise that Michael Strahan, NFL Hall of Famer turned television personality, introduced the world to a drag kid on Good Morning America in 2018. Likewise, former NFL wide receiver Nate Burleson was the CBS Mornings co-host who introduced the Wades winning the NAACP Image Award, as well as the trans activist who came on to educate viewers. The people looking to subvert the natural order and pervert the minds of our children are betting millions of black men will follow black athletes who have been compromised and humiliated. The pressure is on, but we cannot allow ourselves to be broken.
Okay, that was quite interesting, and I have to say that I'm a lifelong Democrat, and I can't find very much wrong with this article. I find myself at odds with the agenda that's being supported by the Democratic Party as of late. And you hear all of this stuff about toxic masculinity, but they're using the very people who are imagined as the most masculine in the media, football players, basketball players, these big black guys who are muscular and doing these incredible feats, and then they're being forced to go out and basically, involve themselves with a bunch of stuff that is less than, it's not viewed as masculine at all, but then you'll have some woman out here saying, well, who says that that's not masculine? You shouldn't allow other people to tell you what's masculine and what's feminine. You should embrace your feelings, And then when you embrace your feelings, do they accept that shit? No. Do they want a man who embraces his feelings? No. They just say that shit. so that they can get over on you, so that you'll do what they want you to do at that given time. So I'm going to let you, take a look at a couple of other things. When these people say that they're not, necessarily after, changing these kids' minds and whatnot. As a parent, like I said, you're supposed to protect these children from making, messed up decisions. You got your whole childhood to be a child. And then when you get up into your, into puberty and you start having sex, then you can deal with that adult shit then. But there's a time to be a child, and then there's a time to get into adult shit. And if you're anything like I was when I was a kid, I could not wait to be grown. I think we all go through that time where we feel like we cannot wait to be grown, And then when we get grown, we go, damn, I wish I could be a child again, paying all these fucking bills and having to do all of this shit, having to do shit I don't want to have to do. Get in these fucked up relationships, people not acting right, not getting enough sex, I'm having to beg for shit, people think I'm evil because I'm masculine, all that type of stuff, You have to deal with those types of things. And now, you have these other problems that make shit even more difficult. These kids have to worry about shit they shouldn't even have to worry about. And then you have grown ass people out here pushing this as if, they should go ahead and take on, these other ideals and whatnot. So let me show you a little bit of this. Okay. I got so much shit in my queue here. I apologize. I used to be faster at getting to this stuff. Okay. So let's look at this one, because we're talking about this gender reassignment, which they are basically fast tracking little Zaya to. And I don't know if they've done their homework or not, but Abuki's going to do his best to try to round up some of this information from some of these people so that they can enlighten some of these people on what these people have to go through and, what sometimes takes place on their journey. So let's take a listen to this.
Reaffirming surgery. Here's a fucking honest update. Do I regret it? Short answer is yes. Don't get me wrong, I got it done twice. It looks Barbie. Why do I regret it? Well, because I will never be able to live a normal life. After the surgery, you have to start dilating to keep the space they gave you. You start from doing it 4 times a day to once a week for the rest of your life. I was fine with that. See, the problem is I had major complications, and now for some reason, I need to do it every single fucking day. Now, obviously, I've had relations, and girls, we all know, guys don't fucking know what to do. So it's not really worth it to me. The problem is I cannot stop. If I stop, it's gonna close up and create a bubble, and that bubble could literally create an infection that could... The two options here are I dilate for the rest of my life, or I get it removed surgically. Surgery goes for $70,000, and I don't want to go through that again, so I guess I'm dilating.
So, see, that's some of the stuff that, that they don't tell you. This person looks great, and just like they said, oh, it looks Barbie, So it looks great, but then it's to the point to where they've done so much damage to themselves to where now sex is an afterthought. They really don't even want to have to deal with it because of the issues that they've had to deal with. And these issues are not small issues because they could be life-threatening. Could cause, massive infections due to this synthetic manufactured, vaginal orifice that they've created for this individual. Okay. But nobody's talking about that. Nobody, is thinking about that. And, no child is thinking about those very important and crucial decisions that are going to have to be made once this person chooses to transition, or they keep their parts and be like a chimera, out here walking around with female parts and male parts, So, and then you can't tell me that that's not sexual in nature. You're looking like a woman. It's like fishing. You catch fish with bait or something that looks like bait. Okay. So these trans women are out here looking like bait, and men are pinging off of that because they're naturally wired to ping off of breasts and fat asses and and big lips and shit, and we ping off of that shit. And then you have women who make fun of us, for pinging off of that shit, when that's what we're naturally programmed to do. And then you have men, if they're not mature enough to be able to deal with those feelings, lash out and do violence against these people. But it's not at the rate that these people would have you believe, because if you go and you look at the statistics, these attacks happen a small percentage of the time. They do happen, but I mean, you're talking about maybe 100 people a year, maybe, out of the entire fucking United States. Now, that's pretty small number. When you compare that against people who are out here being shot, people who are being murdered, women who are being raped, not raped, but, sexually assaulted or whatever the case may be. If these types of things are happening, at a higher percentage, then those things would take precedent, you would think. But no, these other things are being blown up as being a greater threat to people's lives than this. And then anytime you bring up anything, then you are encouraging violence against these people's persons because you're speaking up against this thing. And if it's not that, then they out and out threaten you and say that they're going to do something to you for speaking the truth. Okay? So if I can't threaten them, then why should they be able to threaten me? Or anybody else who tells them that you are not what you say you are. You are not what you look like. You can't tell this person what, you are trying to be. You just have this image of what you think being that thing is in your mind. So you are basically out here emulating, you're acting. So we have to be honest about that. And society needs to really take a chill pill and stop fast tracking a lot of these laws in place and a lot of this stuff that's happening with schools and education and everything else. You got these African American studies, and then they're adding in all of this gay stuff into it, which has nothing to do with African American studies. And all of this is coming from this, Kimberly Crenshaw's little theories and whatnot that have been pushed by this feminism, intersectionality and all of that. All of that stuff is a mistake, because people have gone away from science and facts and data, and they start going into feelings. Everything is about how people feel. Everything is about softening up society. Well, the people that are our adversaries all around the world, they're not softening up. And everybody's looking at us like we're crazy as hell. Okay, so we're going to take a look at another one. You guys may find this kind of crazy too. So,
I'm responsible for the sexuality education of all of our students, from our youngest students who are 3 years old in nursery school, up through our 12th graders who are turning 18 and getting ready to leave high school. That's a huge range, but every single one of those kids is a sexual being. They have been since birth. And at every age and stage, we can offer them age-appropriate, transformative sexuality education. I'm only a small part of the village that supports them as they grow. It's not enough that I teach them. We have to teach them. Part of my message today is that we all, no matter what else we do in life, need to find a way to be sexuality educators for the kids in our lives. If we don't step up, others will. And many of those others don't see wholeness and freedom the way we do. One of the things we can celebrate today is how young people have so many more options to consider than simply whether they feel like a boy or a girl, or whether they identify as gay, straight, or bisexual. Our understandings of both gender and orientation have greatly expanded in our culture, and there's an ever-increasing list of labels one can use to describe oneself. To me, this is a great benefit because it allows people, especially young people, to find a more precise way to describe their own experience. What it's also brought about is greater latitude in experimenting with different identities. It's not uncommon today for young people to try out different labels and different pronouns and different relationships in search of their truth.
Okay. Now, if that don't make you have some questions, sexual beings ever since they were born, you know, you have these ladies out here saying that men are creepy for basically asking them out and trying to, and saying that they're pretty and whatnot. But then this guy up here talking about, you know, teaching, you know, little kids sexuality and talking about them being sexual beings and shit. If that shit ain't creepy, I don't know what is. So, and everything that he's talking about has no scientific basis whatsoever. He's just out here pushing an agenda to further this lunacy that's going on with regard to allowing people to try to change their genders to be girls and boys and whatnot, and you know the hijacking of language and descriptive terms and whatnot, and even just sex in general. You know, everything's just turning upside down and sideways because these people have just basically hijacked language, hijacked education. Every form of institution has basically just rolled over for this new thought process, and nobody's asking any questions. Nobody's concerned about how fast this is this is happening, and how so many black women are out here just championing this, and this has no benefit to our society whatsoever. This has no benefit for the black community whatsoever. How is this going to improve the birth rates? How is this going to, you know, prevent abortions? How is this going to, help us get along with each other better? How, you know, what does this do for society? This allows them to be able to go and have sex with whoever they want to have sex with, boy, girl, whatever they want to do, you know, but that's a private thing that has no benefit to society as a whole. If something's happened to them, you know, and there's violence being done to them, hey, I totally agree that the police should be involved with that and stop it. But other than that, what else needs to be done, really? What else needs to be done where we're just out here, you know, helping them be seen as whatever it is that they choose to? These are private matters. You know, I don't go up to my job and say, hey, my name's Abuki and I'm heterosexual. I'm really into big tits and big hips and women who wear pencil skirts. You know, and nobody does that. So, you know, for them to come to the job and say, I don't want to be discriminated because I'm trans or whatever, but you're coming in there, you're dressed like a girl, but you clearly don't look like a woman, but I'm supposed to act like you do. And I got to walk around on tiptoes and keep myself from saying, hey, him, her, or whatever the case may be. I have to physically really keep from saying what is real. I mean, in order to not offend you. But what about offending me? What about my rights as far as how I'm supposed to carry myself around? What if I just don't want to have nothing to do with that? I just want to take just walk around you and not even say nothing to you. What if I want to do that and I can't do that because now you're forcing me to interact with these people in a way that is more conducive to whoever they are. It's a private matter. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to, how do I reconcile the fact that, they act like this gender thing has nothing to do with sexuality. That's them fucking with language, okay? That's them packaging and twisting up language and shit. Basically, we know, that, sex and gender and all of this shit, all that shit is all dealing with sex, Girls, boys, binary topics. It's been binary for fucking how many thousands of years? Over 50,000 years, okay? We never had any issue with that. If it was a small sector or group that wanted to go and do homosexuality and whatnot, they went and did it. And they eventually died out because they didn't have no kids. So then it would come up again. And if you didn't have no kids, they would die out again. Okay, fine. So now we got a remedy for that. We let them adopt kids and, and then let them go and, have kids with people and then keep the kids and whatnot. They engage in heterosexual sex, but they, they're really this other thing. So they, no matter what, if they want to have kids, they're gonna have to come back to reality. So that's what we're dealing with. So then I'm gonna let you take a look at another one here. And this is another part that they don't like talking about. Like this, check this out.
I don't have to call the police, okay?
Well, it's also entrapment.
Okay, well then call the police. How old is this person you were talking to?
13.
Okay, so that's a minor in the state of Colorado.
Take her shopping.
You're gonna take her shopping?
Yeah.
No,
I never said anything else.
no saying about kissing, nothing like that?
Kissing, there's nothing wrong with that.
You're here to hurt our fucking children.
No, I'm not.
The fuck you're not. You're fucking 61 years old. Look, I'm against the fucking wall.
No, you're not. You got 2 feet behind you.
You're about to get the hot sauce, buddy.
You better back up.
Go into the bathroom and take pics of yourself undressing for me.
Well, child.
Oh, well? A
well?
13-year-old child? That's a 7th grader.
Because I haven't done anything.
So then you probably want us to call the police, correct?
No. I see why you're doing it, and I'm sorry I did this. I'm not going to do it again. It's just I'm a very lonely person.
You're trying to meet with a 13-year-old to have sex, so there you go.
Let's go in. Ma'am? Take a seat for me.
Now, ain't that something? She was trans, but she was going and trying to, have relations with a 13-year-old girl. So I guess that was supposed to be lesbian activity. So, how do you reconcile that? That's going on, but it's being squashed down like it's not happening. So you got these things where, these kids are being involved in this, and then we're giving awards out for supporting this type of behavior, supporting people doing this. And then you have people who are out here saying, that you guys are just wrong for basically hating on Dwyane Wade and Gabrielle Union and little Zaya. Okay. So let's take a look a little bit more, look at a little bit more of this. And, that's one article there. Then we got another one here. Los Angeles Times, Gabrielle Union, Dwyane Wade, full NAACP Image Awards speech on Black LGBTQ rights. And they are happy as Cootie Brown to get their awards for transitioning their son. I don't know, man. I can't feel good about this. I'm with Boosie on this. When you hit the age of puberty where you start, knowing what you want to have sex with, that's when you start doing what you're doing. But see, they know that that's too late because they can't really give them puberty blockers and start to make them really look like, a little girl, or, and keep them from having the broad shoulders and the, the muscular builds and whatnot. So, yeah, So that's why they want to start out early and start working on these kids. So we got that one. And the President's Ward, no doubt. So let's take a look at the speech here, and I'll add this down in the comments as well. Here's Variety. We'll see what Variety has to say about the festivities.
Gabrielle Union Wade and Dwyane Wade deliver impassioned speech advocating for LGBTQ rights at NAACP Image Awards. Gabrielle Union Wade and Dwyane Wade were honored with the President's Awards at the 54th Annual NAACP Image Awards for their philanthropic work and vocal support of the LGBTQIA community. On the red carpet, NAACP President and CEO Derek Johnson told Variety that the Wades were selected specifically for the way they've privately and publicly supported their daughter Zaya Wade, who came out as transgender in 2020.
Hear that? Selected. They were selected. So they select these high-profile individuals so that they can be the face of the agenda.
I love the way they stood up and are standing up for their child, Johnson explained. We have 5 kids. For me, it's very significant for a father to stand strong, a mother to stand strong in support of their child. The special honor came just one day after the 15-year-old was granted the right to legally change her name and gender. She is now legally known as Zaya Malachi Aramis Wade. For his portion of the speech, Wade used the opportunity to speak directly to Zaya, thanking his daughter for opening his eyes to how to be a better advocate. As your father, all I've wanted to do was get it right, he began. I've sat back and watched how gracefully you've taken on a public scrutiny. And even though it's not easy, I watched you walk out of that house every morning, as yourself. I admire how you've handled the ignorance in our world. I admire that you face every day. To say that your village is proud of you is an understatement. As the camera zoomed in closer, Wade continued, thanking his daughter for showing him how to better communicate. As your father, my job isn't to create a version of myself or direct your future, he added. My role is to be a facilitator to your hopes, your wishes and your dreams. Zaya, you've made me a better human just simply by being who you were born to be, a baby girl, Zaya Wade. So baby, thank you for showing the world what courage looks like. I'm proud that I was chosen to stand in place as your father, and thank you so much NAACP for this incredible honor.
Holy shit. Okay, so really, is that what a father's job is to facilitate a person's hopes and dreams? I thought a father's job was to basically give their child the tools to survive in this world. You know, to be able to essentially pass on their genes and to perpetuate his line. You know, whether it be his daughter or his son. His son, he has to give him the tools to survive in this world. This world, we've become too soft. And unfortunately, we no longer teach men to be men. We're teaching them to be whatever it is that, you know, they want to be in society. You know, we don't, I mean, the things that we need for society to work, engineers, builders, you know, mathematicians, you know, people who, you know, climb and, you know, these towers and string these, you know, these cables and whatnot. You know, these people who build infrastructure, those are what men teach their boys to be. And not only that, they teach them to be fathers, you know, teach them how to engage with, you know, women in a respectful way and to go on. Okay. But that he's talking about, facilitate your hopes and dreams and shit. If you go out and you give your child, you know, you just give them all of their hopes and dreams, they ain't going to be shit. You know? So that's where I think the disconnect is coming from. And then you got, you know, the NAACP sitting here, they've got another person who's, you know, basically has a family, and then they feel like this is something that needs to be, you know, addressed out here. And they're pushing Dwyane and Gabrielle's family struggle out on everybody else. Well, if they wanted to choose somebody, why didn't they go get, you know, Magic Johnson? His son was gay this whole time, and then he transitioned after he was grown. Why did they go and use him? Because now they want to allow these children to change at an earlier age. This is going to be an issue, and I hate to that every time something happens in society, we got to wait 20, 30 years before we see that we fucked up. Just like we did putting people in jail for dope and shit, things that was beyond their control, that was being pumped into their neighborhoods. Instead of treating it like it was something that was a medical situation, which they're doing with white folks now with the opioid epidemic. Oh, it's a medical issue. They're not locking those fucking people up, but they lock black folks up. And now, after a whole bunch of gay black folks are going to be, sterilized and running around here being shit that they're not, 20 years down the road, when we got a bunch of mixed up, folks and no kids, and our numbers are smaller than they were before, then they're going to say, hey, we fucked up, and how can we fix this? Rather than saying this is not something we should be pushing or supporting as something that should be taken on by the masses. Now, this is a small community. Okay, you support that small community, but you don't encourage people to be that. And then I'm going to show you some other data and some other studies that have come out that have shown, this is something that has cropped up as a result of COVID and us being locked up in our homes and whatnot. So let's finish up this article, and we're gonna wrap this up.
Dwyane Wade took the microphone. She first spoke to the NAACP's work to advance the lives of black people, paying respect to an organization that has led us through over a century of relentless challenge, pain, triumph, and change. And now stands with us again, at the foot of a very new era of activism. A new era that demands our collective answer to one simple question. That question, will we fight for some, or will we fight for all of our people? Let's just name a couple hard truths, Dwyane Wade continued, as the crowd settled down their applause. First, the intersection of black rights and the rights of the LGBTQIA trans and gender non-conforming people continues to be rough. That's a huge understatement. Even as we demand equality.
See? The intersection of black rights and the rights of LGBTQIA. Who's that talking? Kimberly Crenshaw? So see how they make up these snazzy terms that they could throw out on us, and then these people who want to sound educated throw out these snazzy terms, It's just like in that movie Antebellum. When she was speaking, she was all snooty and uppity and at the, giving this speech, and she was talking about intersectionality, and all of the girls were rah-rahing her, and it was all, feminism and whatnot. And then all of a sudden, it switched up to her being, whipped and treated like a slave out in this crazy situation that happened in the movie. All of that was just, they sneaked this into the scripts. You get intersectionality, in feminism, trans, gay, all this. It's all mixed into these scripts, and it's insidious the way it's just being pushed around, so people will be exposed to it in some way, shape, or form, and not only be exposed to it, but accept it as the gospel. Let's move on.
At the top of our lungs. We consistently failed to extend our advocacy to protect some of our most vulnerable among us. Second, she said, black trans people are being targeted, terrorized, and hunted in this country. Every day, everywhere. And there's rarely a whisper about it. The couple's work supporting the LGBTQIA community, she said, is less about them being activists or leaders as much as it is about being parents who love our children and will do whatever the hell we can to keep them seen and secure and safe.
Okay, so how can you make a statement like that black trans people are being targeted, terrorized, and hunted in this country every day, everywhere, and there's rarely a whisper about it? Prove that. That's a pretty bold statement to make without putting some evidence up. It's just this is crazy that people are allowed to come out and say things like this, and there not being any proof. When we say that black men are dying, there's proof. There's TV spots. There's blood on the streets. There are cameras. There's video. There's footage. There it is. It's there. There are numbers. There are people locked up. But then when you look, and I dare you to go and look, all you have to do is just Google number of trans deaths this year. Google over the last 5 years and tell me that that's a big number. I dare you. Tell me what it is in the comments. Let's move on.
Explained. This is a conversation worth having in ways that can actually build bridges, that don't fan the flames of hatred or division, that don't enable lawmakers or justice systems to look the other way when black trans people are under attack, that don't drive more young people to hate themselves or harm themselves, that don't cost people their lives. Dwyane Wade concluded her speech with a focus toward the future, saying that they're hopeful that we may witness a real shift in the fight for justice, the moment the movement makes room for everyone. Following their impassioned on-stage remarks, the couple spoke to reporters backstage, opening up about their process of writing the speech. There's a lot of people who speak on my daughter's name, and I speak on things. I've never spoken to her publicly in front of everyone, Wade told Variety. So I just wanted her to know how proud we were. She's taught us how to live. And your kids can make you better people. I mean, it's an amazing thing, so just proud of her. Wade added that they had considered the timing of the award presentation, becoming the 30th individuals to receive the President's Award on the heels of Zaya's legal win on Friday. Yesterday was a big day for Dwyane Wade, he said. And we wanted to make sure that the person who kickstarted us to even have an opportunity to be on this stage, heard directly from us. Dwyane Wade almost skipped the awards ceremony after learning that her father Sylvester Union is ill, sharing she woke up Saturday morning to news that he was fighting for his life against unspeakable odds in the hospital. I was tempted to just be like, you got this. I don't think I can keep it together, she said, turning to her husband. And when Wade said the word father, talking about what kind of father he is, my dad raised 3 daughters, and raised us all to be warriors. He had a saying, don't start, none. Won't be none. But if they start it, you damn well better be the person finishing it. And knowing that we didn't start racism, we didn't start sexism, misogyny, anti-trans rhetoric and violence, but we damn well are going to be part of the army working to dismantle it. That's what it had to be about. Dwyane Wade then spoke to her passion on stage, saying people often question her, asking why are you so angry all the time? All the time, Gab? Aren't you ever happy? Her response, yeah, but it's easy to celebrate the easy stuff. It's hard to be the person that says the hard thing, the truthful thing, and leads with radical transparency. And it can be alienating. It can cost people opportunities, but no opportunity that would be willing to walk away from us. For me, from him, from Zaya, from anybody that actually uses their platform for good, that's not an opportunity you want. As the mass of reporters and photographers nodded in agreement, she concluded her answer, so we stand 10 toes down, day in and day out. And we're just trying to encourage as many other people to get real comfortable standing 10 toes down for all black people.
After, looking at this, I don't envy their position. I mean, obviously people are going to stand up for their child. But I almost question whether this was something that, where did this come from? You have to ask the question, where did Zaya get this from? Was this from school? Was this from something else? Is this something that you're trying to fit in? Is this really how you feel? There would have to be a lot of questions. And I'm sorry that people feel like this is a bad thing, but there would also have to be some psychological evaluation going on, to really come down to whether this is actually what the course that needs to be taken. That used to be standard operating procedure. Now there are laws that are being put in place so that they don't even have to do that anymore. I was going to play the speech, but I'll just keep it. I'll put it in the description so that you guys can pull it up yourselves. But all of the safeguards are being removed so that it's easier for children to transition into these other sexes. And I think that is not smart. That's not something that we want to do. And we're going to have to really, really be smart about this. You can't ask, pertinent questions. They just want to let anybody in the bathrooms. At one minute we're protecting women from all these potential sexual assault and whatnot. But then on the other hand, we want to allow people to, to dress like that guy and go into the bathrooms and not have any kind of pushback, and then when something happens, they sweep it under the rug. So, I put a lot out here. I'm still having technical difficulties, as you can hear. It cut out a little bit and come back on. I'm trying to go with it because I can't seem to find out what's happening and why this is happening. But it's not as bad as it was before. So, with that being said, this is kind of long, but all of my shit's long. Anyway, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I hope you found this to be interesting and entertaining. And please let me know what you thought in the comments, and we can have a discussion. And hopefully you can teach me something. Maybe I can teach you something. Please like, share, and subscribe, and hit that notification button. You guys have a great day.